I wanted to do a little bit of an extra on this logo here. It's design. Now, I mentioned earlier about the opportunity of using 3D in Photoshop. That's one of the newest aspects in Photoshop. So I also gave this a little bit of a thicker, a little thicker line here in the bottom of this B structure. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the layer that I played with. So that was what we had before. It's a little bit thinner. I went ahead and gave it a little bit thicker. I felt it added a little bit more balance to this particular logo. So once it's all done, as you can see here, they're all in this logo layer group. So if I cascade up the folder, I'm going to go ahead and I can turn it on and off, and or I can manipulate this. Now what I like to do is just alter all these into one layer. So I'm going to select them all, and what I'm going to do next is merge all of these together into a single vector object. So I went into the layer group and I have targeted all of the layers that make up this particular logo. I'm going to hold down the Alt or Option key for this reason, that I want to merge everything together in its own layer without affecting all of the other layers underneath it. So if I go to my holding Alt or Options, as I'm doing now, I'm going to go to my drop menu right up here in the top of the list, come right on down here and merge those shapes. I'm going to target it, release the my mouse, left mouse button, and there it is. So I have it all in one layer. In fact, let's go ahead and take it out of this group. I'm going to drag it up above the logo group. I'm going to cascade up the logo folder and turn that off. Okay, so this will be the only thing that is that we're going to be working with. So I've got all of my shapes in one vector. If I double click on this one, I can come in here and change the color as I see fit. And I'm going to make this a medium gray. Okay, now let's play around with this concept of 3D. All my little guides are open here, so I'm going to hit my Command or Control H for hide. That will hide my guides. Okay, so I have another option here in terms of maybe adding a little extra pizzazz to this logo, maybe giving it a slight little bit of a kind of not a fill, but something similar. I'm going to go ahead and double click on the right hand side, my layer styles box, something similar to a stroke. All right, now I could go over here and turn on the stroke option. All right, click it, turn on the stroke, and just to see what it looks like. Now this is, click on the word stroke, gives me my options here. I've got a 7 pixel, that's not what I want, so I'm going to bring it down, make it much thinner, and it stands out a little bit better. That stroke, I can decide to stroke it on the outside, or let's get in a little closer so you can see a little bit better, or choose to stroke it on the inside. So if it's on the inside, it has a tendency to maintain the initial shape that we have a little bit better. Or I can go and stroke it on the center. Actually, the center looks pretty good. We can go with that as well. Another option, if you wanted to stroke, is actually, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and turn off this effect and give you another option on this. If I come right down here, and if I'm going to target my pen tool, that's going to activate the options bar for all of my vector shapes. So SMB is a vector shape. I want to pull this down. You can see a little bit more of this. And up here, you can see my fill color, which is gray. My stroke color, which is nothing. Right? So if I target it, I can come right down here and stroke it with any color. So let's say red. We're going to stroke it with red. You can see already we're getting a stroke. Very, very thin. If I, right next to that option, you can see that little box, it's been stroked red. If I come over here to the right hand side, I can increase the thickness of my border. Now I can do that as well, so just keep that in mind. Come right over to here. How about if we go to black like we originally chose, just so that logo can stand out a little bit better. All right, That's looking pretty good. I'm going to go with that. So from here, let's give this a 3D object effect. New in Photoshop, the newest feature in Photoshop is being able to work with vector shapes as 3D objects. You can alter them into a 3D object. That what we're going to do is I'm going to take out the 3D menu. Now, you can do some very cool things with 3D in Photoshop, particularly for logos and creating effects for your website. So I think it's something worth covering. If I go to my window menu, I'm going to target the 3D panel, and it opens up the 3D panel here. And what I will do is I'm going to take the 3D panel and just place it inside of my group right up here. So I'm going to pull it right inside until we get the blue highlight around the intersection and release it. There's my 3D panel, making darn sure that my properties panel is still there, because we're going to be utilizing both of these together. Now, what I would like to do is create a 3D shape from this. So to do so, I'm going to go over to an option called 3D Extrusion inside my 3D panel. So target 3D Extrusion, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to target create the extrusion. Now it's telling me that the path is too complex. All right, that may be the case. So Photoshop is saying, hey, no, we're having problems because you have a lot of very sophisticated shapes in here. May have a little bit of an issue with this. That's fine. Here's a workaround. Go back to layers, and what I'll do is I'll duplicate this so I don't lose my original one. Command J, turn off this bottom one. We don't need it anymore. Right click on the right hand side, and what I'm going to do is rasterize the shape. All right, or rasterize the layer. That's going to alter it from a vector based object to a raster based object. So we're going to take it away from being just a simple system of algorithms of colors of fields, which is vector, to something that will be pixel based. So I'm going to come here, rasterize the layer, done. So as you can see here in the layer panel, it's now a standard layer. Now let's go have some fun with this one. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the effects. I don't need those anymore because I decided to, because I rasterized everything into one layer. I'm going to go back to my 3D panel, create the extrusion. Now that it no longer has to do with paths, it's just dealing with shapes on the layer. All right, so it's telling me that you're about to alter that to a 3D object. Would you like to switch to a 3D workspace? Say no. Keep the workspace that I have. Don't show it again. Target no. And there it is. Okay, we have a 3D layer. Look at that. Now, what you're going to see here inside the 3D panel is your actual logo, which is this little piece here. And I'm going to cascade it up, so all we need to do is look at the folder, the actual logo. And I'm going to rename this one. I'm going to double click it, and I will title it logo. Make sure I spelled that correctly. There we are. Okay, that's help us to keep track of this. Now, to help us see a little bit better what's going on, I'm going to change the background color a little bit. So go back to my layers panel. Remember we did that right down here at the bottom, that adjustment layer of a fill. I just double click on here and give it something a little darker. There we go. That'll help it stand out a little bit better. Okay. So go back to the 3D object. And to navigate a 3D object, you have to be in the Move tool. Just as we need the Move tool to navigate around it, or to move any layer, we need it for 3D. So if I want to rotate this around or pan it around, the Move tool has to be activated. If you look right up here in your options bar, you have your rotation command, right? So I can rotate my object. You have your roll command, which is rotate on the x-axis. You also have your pan to third from the left, where you're going to move it around on x and y axis. You can see this my plane here, which which the shadows are going to appear on top of. I have this option here where I can move it back in Z space. Now, what I do is hold out the Shift key, and that will constrain it to moving in Z space straight back and straight forward. All right, now it's sitting on top of a plane, a 3D plane, and if I go back to my 3D panel, because once you alter your object or your layer to a 3D vector object, then we're going to be working mostly in this 3D panel. So if I target up here where it says the current view, which is actually the camera, and I'm going to go to my rotate the view, what you can see is I'm rotating my shape around here. So I'm using the camera to rotate around the shape. That's the back end, that's the front end. Now if I want to come over here and alter the lighting a little bit, I will target the infinite light, which is right below your camera view, and I'm going to pull this back a little bit, and I'm going to start playing around with the lights. So if I turn the lights off, that's off, and that's turned on. So you can rotate the lights around so that you can see, just kind of get an idea how you like to light this particular piece. I just hit Control H to turn my visuals back on. My guides came back on along with my 3D visuals. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to just use my move tool and drag the guides off individually here so that I don't have to sacrifice seeing my 3D elements here. I want to just grab all these off, drag them off very quickly. I'm going to go to the horizontal ones, just click and drag them right off very quickly. I don't need them anymore because I'm currently working in 3D view. So when I hit my Command or Control H, you can see my 3D plane is now visual once again. I can see it. So if I go to my camera view, go to the rotation option, and I can click and drag, you can see the 3D plane that this sits on top of, okay? Now, if we target the light source, we get to see the light source. We can move this light source around to play around with this. We can move it back so you have a little shadow coming forth here. And say, for example, we want that shadow to be there a little bit. We might want to add more lighting to the face. So I'm going to add another light source right down here at the bottom, second icon from the left, right below your 3D panel. You see a little picture of a light bulb. If I click it down there, we have our infinite light, which is what we're using. So what I'm doing is I'm adding another one in there just so I can light up the front face of this, give it a little bit of a lighting so that we have the lighting for the front in addition to the channel, or the shadow, not a channel, but the shadow. So with this front light targeted, I can go to the properties right down here at the bottom because every one of these 3D attributes have properties. So as you can see here, we have an environment, a scene, a camera view, we have your light source, your actual logo here, these cameras. You only work with a single camera in Photoshop, but you have camera positions. These are basically presets. Default camera resets the camera. Current view, it takes it back to the way we're viewing it now. We also have the infinite light right there on the bottom. We can, for the properties from the infinite light, let me target it. I can alter the color. So right down here, the color, target the color itself, and I can alter the light source to whatever I want. All right. So real fun stuff. I can go to the intensity of the light source right below the color. I can make it brighter or a little bit less bright, whatever you choose. So play around with this one. Now, I think it's worth sharing with you guys some of the attributes of the 3D object itself. In other words, if I go to the logo here and drop down this little list, what you have under here are the attributes for this to apply a surface to this image. So I have an inflation, I have a bevel, which we don't have a bevel, we never put one in. I've got the extrusion. The extrusion is the actual extruded area from our logo here, okay? So what these are texture or materials. And these are the, or I should say the surfaces on the 3D object. My extrusion is the surface for this elongated section of my logo. My inflation is the front face of my logo. And if I come right down here, if we come down here, the extrusion, the back bevel, we don't have a bevel. But we have the back inflation. We're probably never going to see that anyway. The back inflation is like the front inflation. This is front face right back in here. Okay. I could, if I target, let's say we target the extrusion. So right here, extrusion material, target it. Right down here in the bottom of your properties panel, we have a little bit of a visual. You can see that little sphere, 3D sphere here. Drop it down. And I have options for this, okay? All types of cool little options. I can alter the texture on any of this. If I pull it over to or rotate it to the side, you can see what we're getting. So this can get real fun in terms of designing a pretty cool logo, for your website. Now, if we come over to here, go back to the extrusion, and I'm going to play with this. I'm going to drop this down, and I'm going to play with different options. How about if we click this one here, and it automatically changes. It's very, very cool stuff. How about if we go to something like glass or an olive colored crystalline glass, target it, and there it is. Okay. We're getting the glass for logo. So these have possibilities. That might be an option. Now, take a look at the face here. It's called the inflation. So it's different from what we have as the extrusion. So to change it to the similar texture, I'm going to target the front inflation. And then I will... Once it's targeted, I'm going to come right down here to the bottom right. Click this down here. Go ahead and grab that green glass effect. Select it there. So now we have that effect on the front inflation. And if we've done it for the front, we might as well do it for the back. Bring it around to the back so we can visually see this one. Go to the back inflation. And give that little green effect. There it is. Okay. Clicking and releasing on the plane itself jumps you into the current view or the camera view automatically, so you don't have to go select it. There it is. Take a look at that. Pretty nice. All right. So now I want to render this. Let's see what it looks like if we render it. In fact, let's change up the background a little bit. Let's make it a gradient. So I'm gonna come over here to my layers. Go down to the bottom. There's a solid color. I have another adjustment layer I can use for a background just to help me out with some visuals on the 3D logo. I'm going to the black and white half circle. I'm going to place in there what's called a gradient. All right. And this gradient is showing me from red graduates to a transparent pixel area here. All right, just to keep it simple, I'm going to target this, choose black and white as my option. Instead of using white as my color, right down here, the bottom triangle, little box there, if I click it, I can target the color here. So what this is telling me to do is to change the color for this gradient. So if you take a look on the background, it goes from white to black, from white to black. So I want to actually alter this color to, not instead of bright white, let's make it gray. So target the color box right down here in the bottom, and in fact, let's go grab this and give it a medium gray, like what's happening here. Target OK. Okay, see what's happening? We have a nice little gradient. Now, my gradient style is linear. I'm going to target this one. I'm going to give it a reflected concept. Select it. There. Now, I'm going to want the white area to be in the middle and the darker values to be on the outside of the edge of the background there. I think it will be more attractive. And I can target the reverse option, and that should do it. Okay, now, once I have a background, let's render this. Target the layer with a 3D object. Go to my properties panel here. On the very bottom, you can see this symbol to the left-hand side of the garbage can. Click it, and what that do is it will render this image. And what I should have done was selected a small portion just for, educational purposes. So if I want to stop the render, I'm going to hit the escape key on the keyboard. Okay, so as you can see here, I've taken the liberty of kind of going backwards. I kind of did a few undos to go back to where we are, just to the point where we've just created a 3D object. So I want to make a point here. So I rotate this around, my guides are still there. Now, some fast ways of kind of, altering things here. I'm going to go over here to my view menu, go to show, guides are on. I'm just going to turn those off. That way you don't necessarily have to individually drag them off. You can if you like, but that's a faster way of doing it. If we go to alter the surfaces, remember we have the front inflation, we have the extrusion, and then we have the back inflation, which is basically the front face or the back face of our 3D object. So if I want to alter them all at one time, here they all are. There's my front inflation, and I'm going to Command S. I'm going to save this document so I don't lose it. If I hold the Command or Control key, target the extrusion, Command or Control key, target the rear inflation, and what I can do is I can apply the same texture to all three of them at one time. All right, so I wanted you to see that you can what each one individual nomenclature meant, what an inflation was, what an extrusion was. Now you're going to see that we can actually select them all at one time and then add an effect. So come over here to my drop menu. There's my little green effect. Target it and select it. Okay. We'll go to my light source, and I can play around with this. And I'm going to alter this because it's going to be glass-like. I'm going to light it from behind, and I'm using a single light in this example. All right, so I'm going to go here and hit Command S again to save it. So if it crashes, I'm not going to lose anything. When you light glass in the photographic situation, you light it from behind, so you can see the light source is showing you the direction of the light. That's what this pole is, and the ball is representing how it's going to light the subject, how the light's going to fall off the subject, how shading is going to be affected. So I'm going to make sure that the light's coming from behind, and you can see some of the glossiness on the glass there. All right, and if I want to intensify that light source, go down to the properties here. I'm going to go ahead and pull this top menu up a little bit, so a little more space in the bottom, and show a little more of the options down here. Intensify. See, as I'm bringing it up. Okay, now I may or may not like that. I'm going to pull it down this way to see how that looks. Okay, not bad. Now if I want to take a look, I'm going to hit Command S to save it. Hold my M key for the marquee tool. I don't want to render the whole thing, just a small little portion, just to see what it looks like. It'll help us save time. So Command plus to get in closer. I can bring this on over and get in a little closer. There we are. Now we're going to hit this render box there. Looks like a cube inside of another little box, dead center of my 3D panel. The shortcut is Command or Control, Alt or Option, Shift, and then R. I'm going to click the little button here, and we're going to sit back and relax and watch it render here. So you can see a little bit of the hourglass there, but eventually what's going to happen is you're going to see rectangular shapes moving across the selected area, so that those rectangular shapes are the actual areas that it's rendering. Okay, so there it is. It's rendering, giving myself a nice little glow inside. Just one of the many options for texturing your object. So I don't want to get extensively into 3D. I'm going to let you guys play around with this, but what I've done is I've given you the basics. So you can go to your 3D panel, select your object in the layer, extrude it out, and there's all types of little options for the extrusions as well. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the liberty and kind of show you that very quickly. But right now, you can see this rendering pretty well. The whole thing's being rendered. There's a slight little blue line just inside the marching ants. Probably difficult for you to see that on screen, but it's doing a good job rendering. Now to stop it, I'm going to hit the escape key, and that will stop the process there. Okay? So if you come in close, it's not done rendering, but it gives you an idea of what can be achieved with this. All right, so I'm going to target this layer, make sure the proper layer is targeted, and I'm going to go back because I closed out my 3D panel. Go to my 3D panel. I'm going to go ahead and drag it back inside here. In addition, what I'm going to do is make sure my properties is open. So I accidentally closed those out. And take those properties and attach them back down at the bottom. All right, let's go ahead and bring this on up. Command D for deselect. I'm going to go grab the logo here. And I can even extrude my depth. So if I want it longer, I can pull it out this way. So let's hit my V key for the move tool here. There we go. Move tool is activated. Now it automatically brought up another little preview window, which gives me other views. I don't really need to look at that just yet. I'm going to close that on out. So accidentally close out my tools. Let's go down to the bottom. There are my tools. Let's go ahead and double layer. Target my camera so I can rotate this around. You can see it's gotten longer. Now inside, targeting the 3D shape once again. I'm going to go right down here to the logo. And if you look at these icons right below the properties panel, the property for the 3D object, I have other options. Go to the next one over. This allows me not only to control my extrusion depth, but also to play around with the concept called twist. So I can twist this around, and it's really, really fast. It's very, very cool stuff. All right, I'm going to go back to 0. I'll also have taper it out, taper it in to get a certain type of effects. I believe that was at 100 by default. I'm going to scroll this down some more, pull this up, and I have the bend tool, so I can play around with bending this left to right super fast, or bending it up or down. And what I'll do is I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. And rotate this like so. If I go to my slide tool, right up here on the top, right, holding my shift key, I can pull that back into space, so that if I come back to the rotate option, I can play around with the taper. So target the shape. I believe it was a shape. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong thing. I want the logo itself here. Go to the second icon here, and vertical twist. See it rotating? Really fun stuff. So I'm going to hit 0 here and 0 at the top to set it back. Go to my taper, which I believe that was 100%. There we go. All right. So now you see the possibilities of 3D if you so choose to want to integrate 3D into your logo design. you've got that all here. Let's alter this just for fun of it. Let's go alter the surface. So I'm going to go select the front inflation, which is the front face, the extrusion, which is the extruded shape, and then of course my back inflation, which is your back face. And I think we're going to go ahead and zoom this in a little bit more. So not zoom in, but go to my I'm going to go to the camera itself. I want to actually slide the camera in so that this starts to dominate my document just a little bit better. All right, so go back to target the front inflation, extrusion, back inflation, and I accidentally held down the shift key, and I want the control key so I can select each one individually. Drop this down over here, and let's see what other options we have. How about this, like this little gold color right up in here? Maybe we'll grab something like that. There it is. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, on the camera view, go to the rotate option for the camera view, and you get to see what we've done. So here the camera's being lit from behind. Maybe we don't want it from behind. So I'm going to take the light source, rotate this around, and you get to play around with the light source. It might give you some pretty dynamic effects here. So I'm going to go to the camera view and click and drag it. That'll rotate around my whole scene. Okay. All right. I think you guys will get the point. Come in here and play around with 3D. And I think you enjoy this as maybe a nice little added feature. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys accomplish with your assignments.